I'm Meredith with ExtremeTerrain and welcome to this installment of Customer Builds. Now this is a series where we showcase different rigs from our customer build pages right here on our site to hopefully give you some ideas or even some inspiration for your ride at home. On this episode, we're going to be catching up with Peter from Texas about his 2014 JK. Now, if you want to see more about Peter's build, including a full breakdown of his mods list, you can check out his page on the site, or for those of you watching right here on YouTube, you can click the link down below. So what do you say we go ahead and connect with Peter and check out his build? Hey Peter, thank you for joining me today.
No, thanks for the offer to chat.
Yeah, of course. So as I can see, you have a very detailed build, and it is pretty incredible in my opinion. So starting off with more of the foundation, can you tell me what you have going on as far as your suspension setup goes? So
it is sitting on a hybrid 6044, it's a Dynatrac axle set with a Dana 60 in the back and a 44 in the front, resting on a Icon 4.5-inch coilover in the front, and then I did a hybrid in the back. You know, rather than coilovers in the back, I went with the regular 2.5-inch shocks because I tow a trailer and it was just easier to keep the stability there. 37-inch tires now. And when this set goes out, I will probably go to 38s, and I think the wheels are Fuel 601s. I've had the wheels for a long time, surprisingly. They've lasted longer than most of the suspension parts, yeah.
So do you take your Jeep off-roading a lot? Do you use those anti-rock bars as well as the coilover system?
I do. I tow a teardrop trailer into some pretty gnarly terrain. So yeah, pretty much try and get the trailer anywhere the Jeep would go. But I really like the sway bars that way.
Now, what made you go with a coilover system instead of just a standard suspension system for the front?
I was anticipating the Hemi swap probably 2 years before I actually did it. And, for everybody I talked to who had done this said, if you're going to overbuild anything, overbuild the suspension. And I could never get the geometry straight on the 4.5-inch lift. So I started reaching other places and I kept coming back to coilovers, and I looked all over the place for folks who were doing them and eventually settled on the Icon kit.
It definitely seems like a strong system, and I know you mentioned that Hemi. We're going to cover that a little bit later.
We had to swap the springs out on the front when we dropped the Hemi engine in because we added 300 pounds of weight in the front end. But other than that, the suspension was great. I like the fact that I can tune it. For instance, highway speeds, I keep it as hard as possible, and once I get off-road, same time I'm wearing the tires down, I'll drop it all the way down to the bottom and get as much softness out of it as I can.
Yeah, definitely make it comfortable and articulate very well. That's pretty cool in itself, and then having those axles to support it there too. Seems like you have a very solid setup on your hands. Now moving into more of the exterior, I know you have a lot going on. Can you tell me a little bit more about your armor and how you have your exterior set up, kind of starting with the front?
So I have a DV8 FS13 bumper on the front. Holding a 12,500 pound Smitty-built X20 winch. And then moving around the sides, I've swapped the fenders out both front and rear with metal Deegan 38 fenders. And quite frankly, the whole reason I went to metal fenders was I spent a lot of time climbing up and down the Jeep. And I found that I was beating the plastic stuff to death. And then come back to the rear, I've also got a DV8 bumper and tire carrier on the back. And, I've really been happy with that. And I've never felt like it was sagging or was coming loose or something else. And I've banged it into a few things, It survived the Rubicon Trail with a couple of minor scratches, but, nothing really out of sight. I think a lot of people's frustration with these things is they come out of camper and they don't close the way they're supposed to. And this one, it's been solid.
Now, as far as the side, I know that you have some armor around the rocker area. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've got the Rock Slide Engineering rock sliders. My wife is all of 5'2", and to save my marriage, I had to come up with some way of making sure she could get in and out of it. I went through the Rubicon Trail with the Rock Slide Engineering step sliders on there without the additional armor. But surprisingly, they still work fine, even though I beat them pretty hard.
Yeah, they are a very solid unit. Now, obviously, they are a power side step, so Of course, you want to take care of them and you don't want to beat the crap out of them when you're on the trail. Now, if you want to see more about Peter's build, including a full breakdown of his mods list, you can check out his page on the site, or for those of you watching right here on YouTube, you can click the link down below. Now, since we covered most of the exterior, can you tell me a little bit about your lighting? I noticed that you have kind of non-traditional to the JK setup.
I have enough light on that Jeep to power a lighthouse, I think. Everybody owns a JK probably has been through this. Is the OEM lights suck. I added projector headlights and blinkers in the front, and I had a rear taillight go out. And I got really frustrated, changing the lamps out all the time, so I finally just ripped the taillights out and put LED taillights in.
Yeah, sometimes that's like the deciding factor. You just don't want to change a light bulb anymore, and once you throw LEDs in, you really don't have to worry about it anymore.
Absolutely. I think that's one of my biggest frustrations. I just want stuff to work. And I hate having to swap things because I can't get it right. Then, because I'm setting up camp all the time, I added a couple of KC lights up on the back of my roof rack so that I could light up the area behind me. I added a couple of yellow KC round lights in the back that are set up to a blinker so that if I'm with other people in a high dust place, I can put the blinkers on the back and high enough to be just above the dust cloud. Up front, I added a KC Gravity Pro 6 light bar. Now you take the covers off that Gravity Pro 6 and turn the lights on. It is almost like daylight. And even, my wife sometimes questions how much I pour into my Jeep. But the first time she looked at it, she goes, now I understand why that light bar's up there. I'm light happy. Like I said, I can power a lighthouse off it.
And I think it fits very well with what you're trying to do and the aesthetic of your build. Now, moving on to some of the interior, I know you mentioned that you have some stuff in the inside as well.
Yeah, because it's just my wife and I, one of the things I did is I took out the back seat and I put in a goose gear plate system. And I also did the cubbies on the side. I then went in and built my own drawer system that extends all the way up. And in that drawer system, there's spare food, spare water, spare stove, spare propane bottles, and then refrigerator and slide. Up front, I've done the vector bar with the mouse for my iPhone. I tend to, I added a dual air compressor under the seat so that I can actually fill up the tires faster than I normally do.
Well, I think we kind of covered everything on the outside, a little bit on the inside. I really want to know what's going on underneath that hood.
Yeah, so when your Jeep gets heavy and you're towing a 2,000-pound trailer across, 30 mountain passes in a row, eventually you say, I love the Pennstar, it was great, but I hate driving 25 mile an hour up 10,000-foot mountains. So this winter, we replaced the Pennstar with a 6.9 4-liter Hemi. Yeah, and it purrs, it yells, it does everything you'd imagine a Hemi would do. It has been tremendous. Really, happy with the way it's turned out. I'm particularly happy with the Dynatrack axles I put on the brake systems that came with them, because there's nothing worse than having a really heavy Jeep that doesn't stop when you want it to.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, stopping is very important. That is like one of the #1 things. You need to make sure that your brakes are in check.
That's a big deal, especially when you're driving, with a Hemi, because you tend to put your foot in things and drive a little fast. I'm a fan of old Jeeps, and you guys know this because you've been doing it for years, but Jeeps will last forever. Swap the engine, swap the axle, swap whatever you want, but it's not going anywhere. That's why I call it the 10-year project. Quite frankly, at 10 years, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Now, speaking of 10-year project, what do you have up your sleeve next?
I'm trying to figure out how to take weight off the Jeep now, because I weighed it loaded after I finished the Hemi, and it came in at 6,400 pounds.
Oh, that's why you have that 12,000-pound winch up there.
And then I think because my KO2s are probably on to their last 10,000 miles, I'm either going to go to Millstar or 38s, or I'll go to Nitro Grappler. I haven't decided yet. The only thing I'm sorting through is how much weight of the tire versus something else.
Definitely a lot of math to consider, and it sounds like you have a lot of work ahead of you. Thank you so much for joining with me today and kind of going over your Jeep and telling me a lot more about it.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the hard work you guys do. But, I've watched your videos over and over again. So as a do-it-yourself, I can attest to the value of a good, solid video when it comes to actually putting something together. So thanks for the hard work you guys are doing.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Definitely, that's what we love to hear, because that's what we're here to do.
All right. Thanks so much.
So that is going to do it for this installment of Customer Builds. Make sure that you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content, product, and install videos, and always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.